Alright, what's up, bros? Um, Welcome to another Brograph motion graphics tutorial. Today we are going to be in After Effects, and we're kind of going to go over a general overview for all the new people who are just started getting into After Effects. I've found that the hardest thing for learning a new program is understanding the user interface, and so we're gonna kind of go over that, and we're also going to create this fun little animation right here where it looks like letters on a string falling from the ceiling, and you got a little bit of reflection down here. So yeah, by the end of today you should, or at least this lesson, not today, you should be able to make this little animation and have a kind of a better understanding of After Effects and the way it works. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's see, let's start a new project. And then I'm just going to start a new composition real quick. We're going to go 720, 15 seconds. Let's change that to about 10 seconds. Now don't worry about that, I'll get into that in a little bit. I'm going to start up here on kind of your toolbar. Now my workspace that I've got is just my standard workspace. So if you go into Window, Workspace, and Standard, you should be able to see it the same way. Now I'm working on a laptop, so everything's a little bit more squished than, say, if you were working on a big screen TV or big monitor. So let's start off up here. So we've got the selection tool. The hotkey is V. That's basically if you've got just about anything. Disregard what I'm doing right now. I'm just trying to have something so I can show you for reference. So say you've got an object of some sort and you just want to move it around. The selection tool basically just does that, allows you to select what you want within this and do whatever you want with it. Now you've got the hand tool. If you guys know Illustrator or Photoshop, then you guys will know the hand tool. It's basically just gives you the ability to move around. Say you're zoomed in or zoomed out and you've got something way out here, something like that. It basically just allows you to move the canvas. Let's see, magnifying glass, pretty self-explanatory. Zoom in, zoom out. Hit the Alt button and it'll zoom out. Or if you've got a scrolly wheel mouse, you can do that and that'll also help you zoom. Now a couple of these you won't really need to know right now. I'm gonna kind of just quickly go over them. This one, you've got kind of some camera tools. You've got the track X and Y, track Z. So this is the Z, especially if you're working in 3D space, as well as the orbit camera tool. I can show you if you're working in a 3D space. Say you've got a 3D camera. Just gonna throw that out there. Then say you go to the orbit camera tool. It allows you to orbit around a 3D object or a 2D flat object that you're treating as 3D, that you've enabled as 3D. That's the orbit camera. And then the track XY, this allows you to just move up and down. Sorry, not up and down. Yeah, up and down, left and right. And then the track Z allows you to move forward and backwards. You can toggle through them by hitting the C button. You can see as it changes right here. That's basically that. Now, go ahead and make that on 3D. Just kind of hit our V for move. Move that back to the center. This one right here is the pan behind, which is one of my favorite tools once I finally learned about it. Now, right now, we've got this white solid, and we've got its anchor point here right in the center. So if we were to scale it, or do some rotation, you see it does all that around this particular anchor point right here. Well, say we wanted to move the anchor point. Now this gets a little tricky once you have a bunch of keyframes in here, so mostly you want to change this before you start putting keyframes in. So say I just wanted to make my rotation around this corner right here. And we'll do this in the tutorial. You'll see we'll need to change the anchor point on this. Well, now whenever you rotate it, it rotates around that anchor point instead of the center. And the keyboard shortcut for that is Y. So then that allows you to put your anchor point wherever you want. Go ahead and put that back in the center. All right. Now, right here we've got the ellipse tool, which if you hold down, then you've got the rectangle tool, rounded rectangle tool, ellipse tool, polygon, and star tool. Now these are all different. You can either make shapes with them. If you were to do that and not clicked on anything, you could go ahead and just make a shape layer. Holding down shift makes it uniform. You can do that. Also, you can use it to use these individual things in order to create masks for objects, which if you know Photoshop, then you'll kind of know what a mask is. If you don't know what a mask is and you're a brand new beginner to this, a mask is basically what it sounds like. So we are creating kind of a cutout or a mask. Basically, if you were to put a mask on right now, you wouldn't see your actual face. You would see the mask. Well, same with here. You're not seeing the actual square. You are seeing the mask. So, show you another example of a mask. If I were to take the pen tool, which is the next one, and kind of create a shape, only that shape is going to show up. Now what's great about masks is you can say you didn't want this. You could go ahead and invert the selection by doing subtract, and then you don't get that, but you get everything else. So that what I just showed you was the pen tool. Within the pen tool, if you've worked with Photoshop or Illustrator, then this should be pretty self-explanatory. It's a little bit different, I've noticed, in Illustrator versus After Effects. One thing that I do love in Illustrator that you can't do in After Effects is if you have one of these Bezier curves, if you click on that, it doesn't send it back to, the center. You have to actually manually move it. I haven't figured out a way to do that. I'm sure there is. There's lots of things about After Effects, little quirks that you're learning every day. All right, so that is the pen tool. You've got add and delete vertices. Say you've got some vertices in there that you want to add or delete within your shape. You can do that. You can convert vertex tool. Say you've got a shape, and then you go to your convert vertex. Then you can kind of change that shape, change the Bezier curve on there. Now, the mask feather tool, that's something new that came in CS6, and I kind of like it. It allows you to take the mask and feather out individual parts in there. I know for some of you this may be going a little too fast. You're like, what the heck is feathering? But don't worry, you will eventually get there. Not maybe on this tutorial, but you can kind of see it creates this soft, soft look. It's called feathered. Alright, so let's go ahead and delete that mask. Now our next one, let's hide our solid, is your text tool. You've got the horizontal and the vertical. I can't say I've ever used vertical in my life, but most of them are just the basic text. So let's see, Brograph. Go ahead and type that out. Alright, there we go, the beginnings of our tutorial right there. Gotta start off with the text. Now if you want to change your text, you can double click on the layer and then change your font size, change the spacing in between, change your paragraph left, center, right, justified. Basically all the same stuff that you get with Photoshop and Illustrator right there. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that in there as we move along to the next one. I'll just turn those off. Here you see the little eyeballs. Those will tell you whether they're on or off. And then you've also got the lock right here and the solo tool, which will, if you turn the solo on, it will just solo that one or all the ones that are soloed. So I'll leave that on. Then you've got the paintbrush tool. I don't really use it that much. There's probably some people who do. I don't find a lot of use for it. But maybe we'll figure something out and do another tutorial on it. Same with the clone stamp tool. These are all mostly painting onto your canvas type stuff. And I don't do a lot of that, but who knows, maybe we'll find a use for it. That fun tutorial in the future. Next ones are they don't get used that often, but they're pretty fun. Rotobrush in particular will save you a lot of time if you're actually doing a lot of rotoscoping work. It got introduced in CS 5.5, CS5, I believe. And yeah, basically it's kind of like the magic wand in Photoshop, only it does it for video. It figures out the pixels around there, around your object that you paint, and it will create a cutout of that. I'll do a tutorial later on about the Rotobrush because it's pretty fun. And then this one is the Puppet tool. So I'll show you this one really quick because this one's kind of fun. You can create individual pins, they call it, where then when you take one pin, it kind of warps around the other two pins that you've put there. So you can see, and you can do keyframes on them to actually make them move. I did a project a little bit ago where I had a dress that flew in and kind of like whooshed back and forth, and I used the puppet tool for that. So that's kind of fun, especially if you're doing some really simple animation, like actual character animation and stuff like that. The puppet tool is a pretty useful tool. Alright, so that's about it up here. Down here you've got your composition. Now each time you're gonna want to start a new composition, it'll start up and you won't have anything in your project window. Your project window right here is where basically all your JPEGs, all your footage, everything that it's basically your bin where you're going to keep everything. And then right next to that is your effects control. So if you throw an effect on one of your things, you can adjust its parameters within this effects control. You can also do a drop down within the actual layer, but I prefer to go into the effects control. It just helps keep it more organized so I don't have a whole bunch of stuff drop down here. So I'm going to start a new composition. You can do that. If you had, let's say for example, a piece of footage, you could just drag and drop that right into the composition. Or if you wanted to kind of nest like a composition into another composition, you could just simply drag and drop. Then you see comp 2, we have comp 1 nested in it. So anytime we go back to comp 1 and make an adjustment, it automatically shows up in our sequence in comp 2. So I'll go ahead and delete comp 2. Or if you want to adjust your settings on your own, you can simply click on the new composition button, name it whatever you would like. This is a test. And then preset, you've got all your different presets in here. Right now we're working in 720, 2997 frames per second. You can set up your resolution. I normally set it up for half because I don't have a big enough screen to be able to watch it at 100%, you see. So that's 50%. If I'm watching it back in half, it should be fine. Alright, so we've gone ahead and we'll say we created this composition, and then you saw earlier how we created the text. We'll go ahead and turn that on. So we've got this text in here. Now, in order to get that bluish background, what we need to do is we need to create a solid. And solids are super useful. You'll see in this particular tutorial that I will be using them a lot. So there's two ways to do it. You can either right click down here and hit new solid, or layer new solid, or Apple Y. So we are going to make it the same height and width, the comp size. If it's changed up here, you can just hit that simple button and it will make it the composition size. We're going to name this Blue BG for background. And you don't need to worry about the color right now, because what we're specifically doing with this is we are going to create a ramp. And you'll notice in After Effects, the more and more you use it, that you just create these solids as kind of placeholders. Now, Video Copilot, they have Element 3D, they've also got their optical flares, and basically you're creating a solid and using that as a placeholder for their stuff. The stuff that you create using their plugins and stuff. So we're going to go ahead and click on this blue background, and we're going to add an effect to it. And you'll see this one used a lot. Generate gradient ramp. You can click on that, or you can go to your effects and presets over here, and you can type in ramp. And so just drag and drop that onto your blue background. And basically what it does is it creates a gradient. Now, if you're working in an earlier version, it's not called gradient ramp, it's actually just called ramp. For some reason in Adobe Creative Cloud, they decided to change it to gradient ramp. I guess enough people couldn't find it as called ramp. So we've got two different types. We've got the linear ramp and we've got the radial ramp. Linear ramp, you can see it's just a straight line from one to the next, and then the radial is a radial. It's like a circular ramp. So we're going to go ahead and use the radial ramp, and we are going to make the start of our ramp a little bit above center, and then end of ramp probably about here. I may adjust that once I get my colors in there. And now this black, we're going to change that to like a blue. Maybe like, that's a good blue right there. And now I'm going to use the eyedropper, and I like to, it's just something that I like to do. I like to grab the exact one, so I know I'm kind of working in like a monochromatic type environment. Go ahead and do that. So then, yeah, we'll change this to be, actually let's make this a little bit lighter so you can see a serious difference between the two. Alright, so there you go. You can see you got a nice little radial ramp going on, and that's looking pretty good. Alright, so we've got the basics of our stuff. Now let's go ahead and do this. Like I said earlier, how you can nest one thing into another composition, you'll find that you'll do that a lot with After Effects. What they call it is they call it pre-composing. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to pre-compose this one by going to Layer, Pre-compose, or you can hit Shift Apple C. And then let's name this Text. Now you've got leave all attributes and move all attributes. We don't. If you had effects on here, you would want to move all the attributes unless you wanted it to be over everything that you're creating within this subcomposition. But we're going to go ahead and move all attributes, and we're going to go ahead and open the new composition. Alright, so here you go. If we were to go back to one, you see we've got a pre-comp right here, which is called text. And then you can click over to text, and you see this right here. So anything we do inside this text, say we were to move that, see it updates in this composition. Pretty cool. So now with this, what we're going to do is we're going to be having it drop from the top each individual letter and kind of create a cascading effect and make it look like it's on strings. So with this, we're going to need each individual letter broken up so that we can have it rotate and position at different times. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy this. There may be a quicker way to do this, but this is the way that I've found is just the brute force method. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this by hitting Apple D or Command D. Enough, one for each letter. So B-R-O-G-R-A-P-H. And then just go ahead and do this. B R O G R A P H. And what I'm doing is I'm just double clicking on it so that it'll highlight the whole thing, and then I'm just making each letter turning the whole word into each letter. Now let's go ahead, let's grab our H, and you'll see a nifty little trick that I I enjoy. Let's grab the H, and we'll put that about here. Okay, so we've got the beginning where we want and the ending letter where we want. Now the rest of them we want to be able to put into place, but we don't really know where that is. Well, let's go ahead and start making these a little bit further out than the next one. Now it doesn't matter, it does not have to be precise, because we're going to do a little trick in order to even this out. But you got to make sure that as you're doing this, each one is further out than the other. Alright, so let's grab the B first and shift click to the H, and that highlights all of them, and you're going to go over here to align. And you see distribute layers, and we want to distribute it evenly through the horizontal center distribution. And you'll see once I click this, it does a pretty good job of getting those all distributed evenly. Now you can see it's a little tight right here. The typography is a little bit loose right here. So we can just go ahead and we can tighten that up a bit. I'm just clicking on the individual layer, and I'm using left and right to move them along the x-axis so that we can get those good and tight. Let's see, move the G right there. Grab all those. That's alright. That looks pretty good. Alright, let's move the R over just a smidge. Alright, that's not too bad. Alright, let's grab them all and let's move them to about right there. Now you can, if you're moving, you can just highlight what you want and hit left and right, and that'll move 1 pixel at a time. Or you can hold shift and you can move 10 pixels at a time. I'm pretty sure that might be more than 10 pixels depending on how zoomed in you are. Alright, so we got the beginnings of our fun little Brograph here. Now, here's where we go back to the pan behind or anchor point tool. And what we're going to do is we are going to zoom in and we are going to change the anchor point on each of these to about where we want that string to be. Where we would want the anchor point of the string to be, because when these things rotate, they're going to be rotating as if these were on strings and the strings were connected at these certain points. So keyboard shortcut spacebar for the hand, or you can go up and click up here, but it's a little bit easier just to hit the spacebar. That's the same actually in After Effects, or not After Effects, as Photoshop. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to drag these anchor points to the right spot. Alright, almost got them. And the last one is the H, and the H is going to be a little bit different than the rest because it has nothing up here. Its actual anchor point from where the string will be hanging is actually right here. So that's going to throw a little bit of a curveball at us a little bit later on, but you'll see. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and animate this. So this is where we want our final stuff to end up. So let's start from there and let's go backwards, okay? So I did an earlier version and I found out that you probably want about 10 frames per motion. So with it being 30 frames, let's go about to 1 second, 10 frames. And now what we're going to do is we're going to hit P for position, hold shift, and hit R for rotation. And what this will do is this will adjust both the position and rotation of each of these things. And now this is the position and rotation that we want them to be at the end. So let's go ahead and make a keyframe for position and rotation. And you see when that happens, these little triangles or the diamonds show up. And you can see right here that you've got keyframes as well. Now make sure that when you're going through and you're creating all these keyframes and such, you don't hit the stopwatch again. If you do, you will delete all your keyframes. So it's very important to remember that. Alright, so let's go back about 10 frames, about 10 frames. You can hit Page up, page down will take you frame by frame, or you can hit shift, page up, and that'll take you back 10 frames. So what we want to do here is we want to change our position to be a little bit down, because basically what we want it to do is fall from the top, go down, and rubber band up a little bit, and then back down to our ending position. So actually this one needs to go up. So we're going to go ahead, and we've got our X and we've got our Y. We're going to bring our Y up about, we'll say to about there. Okay? And then we're going to do some random rotations throughout. Now feel free to make them whatever you want. I'm just going to go left and right, and then left again, go down, do that. And you don't really need to worry if they overlap too much, because they are going to be cascading on, like one at a time, so they won't really have that overlap. Okay, so we've got that, and then let's go back 10 more frames. Actually, you can kind of see it goes and it settles down as that last like jump, and then let's go back 10 more frames, and let's go ahead and make the position a lot lower than the other one. It's like right there. And now what I like to do is make it the opposite way and make it pretty pronounced. Say you've got 7, let's make it 14 in the opposite direction, because you know, physics and stuff. So let's see, 14 there. Let's make this negative 18. We'll make this one positive 22. Getting crazy right here with all these big numbers. Oh, I said positive 22 and I went to 23. Let's see, let's do this one positive 22 as well. And then, oh man, here we're getting like negative 30. That's crazy. What are we doing? Now we can adjust those later if we need to. But you can see they go down, they bounce back up. It doesn't really have a fluid movement, but we'll get to that in a second. Alright, so let's go ahead and do this. Let's go back 10 more frames. And I am going to kind of start from the beginning with each of these. And I'm basically just copying and pasting each of the keyframes at the end to the beginning. Probably don't need to go about this. There's probably a quicker way. Alright, now let's go ahead and grab all these, and we will go up with them to the top. Alright, and then let's see, negative 25. You know, let's go ahead and just keep them like that. So, I might have had my timing off. If so, we can adjust it. But right now we're at about 1 second. So, you can see as this plays through, yeah, it's okay. It's not great right now. Let's make it great. So the thing with physics is, I don't know if you've ever read the animation handbook, it talks about when you're dropping something, it kind of stays in its starting position and gains momentum. So what they call that in After Effects is an ease. I don't know if you've worked with cinema, you can see it as well, but we're going to ease this out so that we want it to slowly drop down and then gain some momentum. And then same with these, once it hits, we want it to slowly move down and slowly move back up before it shoots it back up. So that's just an easy ease. We want it to ease in and ease out. Same with this one as well. Easy ease. And then that one we're just going to leave it as it is. So you can see now, boom. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's looking pretty good. It's a little fast. Let's adjust that speed while we're here. instead of going through and having to do each of the keyframes, what you can do is you can highlight all your keyframes from beginning to end that you want to extend, and then if you hit the Alt button on the last keyframe, if there's a whole bunch, it doesn't matter which one, as long as it's one of the last ones, you can expand that out. And let's get that to about 110. There we go. So then you can see it goes down a little bit slower, which is good. I feel like that's some natural, gravity. Now here is one of the fun parts. Let's go ahead and make those strings. You can minimize all your stuff by clicking on the little arrow here. I have a tendency just to hit AA or a whole bunch of times until all the stuff goes away, or you can do that with scale or whatever. Alright, so let's do a new solid, and this is what we're going to use for our string. Go ahead and make it composition size. Doesn't really matter, but then again it does. So on this white solid, we're going to go ahead and we're going to name this string. And I could have named it when I made the main one, but I didn't. To rename it, you can just hit the return button. Okay, so now let's go ahead and make a path using our pen tool. So clicking up here and then holding the shift button, we can create a path. Now that didn't really do much for us. We want to create the string, so we want to generate a stroke. And by doing that, what it does is it kind of strokes the path. And by doing that, we reveal the original image. So as you can see, now we've got a string. If you want to change the thickness of the string, you can do it through the brush size. I like to keep it relatively small. Let's make it some fishing line. All right, so let's go ahead and get this into the right position. And what I'm going to do, instead of adjusting my mask, I'm just going to go ahead and adjust the entire position of the solid that we have. That way we don't have to, we can kind of save ourselves some steps. So if you hit U, you can see all your keyframes. And then let's go ahead and animate the string. So what we're going to be doing is now animating the string, the mask on the string, in order to make sure that it goes along with the B. So if you hit M for mask, you can go ahead and click that path, and that's where we want it to end up. Now let's go ahead and go here, and you can see that this needs to be about right there. So we can click on that. Oh, let's mask path, click. Nope. All right, let's just go ahead and highlight that once you've got the arrow tool. And then we'll move that up to about there. And then we'll go to our next keyframe. You can hit J and K, and that will take you to the next keyframes. And then let's go ahead and move this down to here. And then let's slowly page up so that we can see where exactly, when. There you go. That first frame right before you see it. It's about right there. So now you can see, let's go ahead and make these the same eases. You can hit F9, and that'll give you a regular ease, or ease on both sides. And then I think that's all we need for that. And you can see that path of that mask, the stroke goes along with it. Oh, got a little bit delayed there. Probably because of this. Let's do the ease out, maybe? Nope. Alright. Go frame by frame. Oh, you know what? I think I know what this is. This, bear with me for a second. is a change in After Effects. All the other versions used to do it differently, but now this version has seemed to default the keyframe interpolation, spatial interpolation, to auto Bezier, and I hate that. I always wanted it linear. So anyways, you will have to click position or P for all of your things, highlight all of your keyframes, right click keyframe interpolation, and change that to linear. I hope After Effects fixes that. But you can see now our string actually stays on, and it looks a little bit better. So I'll go ahead and do that, then you, and then what's great, now that we've made this first string, we can just go ahead and duplicate it by hitting Command D, and let's move the entire solid over to center of it. So keep on going, keep on going, keep on going, and we'll do that with all of them, and you'll see once we get to the end, the only one we can't do that with is the H, the dreaded H. It's going to give us so many problems, but that's okay. Let's see, get the A and the P, and then I'll show you what we're going to do on the H. Basically, we're just going to have to adjust all of our keyframes to be a little bit further on each one. So we'll start at the end. We'll go, whoops, oh, don't zoom in. Go, click on our mask, highlight our first one, and move that down. If you hold the Shift key, that will make it to where it only goes along the X and Y, or the X or Y, I can say. And then we'll move here to this keyframe, and we will move this down to there. And then to the next keyframe, there. And then finally to the last keyframe. Probably have to make one or two more keyframes on this one. Yeah, just one. And we'll make that right there. So now you can see, boom, we've got them all on strings. Alright. Pretty great, huh? Looking good. Okay, so let's see. Now comes the fun part. Let's go ahead and select all of our layers, and we're going to hit Alt and bracket. And what that's going to do is that's going to cut all of our stuff, make the ending points for all of that right there. This is a neat little trick that I really, really like. Now we've got about 40 frames, and what we're going to do is we're going to grab each of the letters first. This is how we create the cascading effect. And then we're going to go to Keyframe Assistant, Sequence Layers. I wish they had this in Cinema for all the brute force stuff. So duration, we're going to make it 105, and we're going to click on Overlap so that it overlaps 5 frames, and hit OK. Now we're going to go back, and we're going to do that same thing with the strings. Now what you want to make sure that you do, you can't just click them in any order. You want to click them in the one that you want to start with and end with the one you want to end with. Let's go ahead and do that. Sequence layer, and it kept all of our settings, and there we go. Now each of the strings is matched up with its individual thing. Now they're popping off screen right now, which is okay, because we're just going to do the same thing we did with the other by clipping them. We're going to select them all, and we're going to hit Alt end bracket, and that will get them to extend their out point. Then you can see, boom, boom, bam, baby. All right. Well, let's go ahead and save that real quick, since I apparently haven't done that once. Brograph V2. Could not. That's fine. Let's go ahead and try saving that again. Brograph. All right. It's important that you save and that you set up your autosaves. To set up your autosaves, go into your preference, autosaves, and you can set it up where you want to automatically save the projects every 20 minutes and maximum versions. Let's go ahead and do that. All right. Now let's go back to our composition and see how that looks. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. That's pretty good, I guess. All right, now let's polish it off. Let's make it look real good. So first thing we want to do is let's go ahead and make it look like we're kind of on, we've got a background and a floor, because we're going to make that reflection. Let's go ahead and make a new solid. We'll make it the comp size. We're going to call this corner. Okay. What we're going to do here is we're going to do the same thing that we did with the other one. If you hold down shift, it'll create a straight line when you click. And we're going to do a stroke. Reveal original image. That way we see that. And that kind of looks like, you know, it would be a corner. But let's get some crazy ambient occlusion like stuff going on. And let's make this real thick. Real nice. Let's go ahead and call this AO corner, because that's going to be our little shadows. And then we're going to go to Effect Perspective Drop Shadow, and we just want the shadow only. Let's go ahead and center that up 180. And then distance, we want that 0 because we want that right in the center. And then we're going to mess with our softness to make it look kind of like a corner. You can see that right there. Let's make it real soft. And we can also adjust our brush size to bring that down a little bit. That doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look too bad. All right, now let's get some shadows on the wall back here on this text. And let's go ahead and just do a drop shadow as well, if that's the last one you used, or you can go to perspective drop shadow. Do that. Let's make the distance about right, probably about to 13 maybe, and then bring up that softness a lot. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So now you can see right there, actually that's kind of cutting the line right there. So let's bring our AO corner and our corner down maybe about 10 frames or 10 pixels. And we got that. Boom. All right, now comes the fun part. What we're going to do is we're going to create this this reflection. And how we're going to do that is we're going to duplicate our text layer, turn it into a 3D layer, and then we are going to rotate it about I always get these confused, the x-axis. Then we're going to bring that down here. Actually, let's bring our corners, just adjusting. Then our text, bring that to right there. That looks pretty good. Now let's bring the opacity down, the transparency. To do that, you hit the T. I remember T for transparency. You think it would be O for opacity, but it's not. So, yeah, now that's looking like a reflection. What do you know? All right. It's looking pretty good. What else do we have to do with this? I think that's about it. Now we've got this neat little animation right there that you guys made all by yourselves. Now if you really want to get crazy, you could create an adjustment layer, and let's go ahead and create an ellipse. If you double click on it, it'll create an ellipse about the same size as your composition. Let's go ahead and subtract that. Let's add a nice little vignette. That way it'll help kind of our ramp. Color correction, curves. Let's really bring those curves down. And then we're going to go ahead and feather that mask by hitting F. Make it about 100. There we go. That's nice. Now it looks almost like a light from a stage. What do you know? There you go. You got a nice little Tiny Toon Adventure thing. And that's playing back in real time. Let's go ahead and change our ending so we can see it more. N for work area. And there you go. That's looking pretty good. Oh, I forgot the biggest thing. Really polish this off. Let's go back into our text layer. Let's turn on our motion blur. Oh, you guys are gonna love motion blur. Let's make our text motion blur as well. I don't know if it's necessary, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. Now check this out. Boom, bam, baby. That looks nice. Alright. It gives it that blurry look as it's moving. Alright. Well, there you go. You have, if you've followed along, you've created yourself a nice little Brograph animation. So, yeah. Thanks for joining us on this little tutorial. I hope you guys had a good time, and I hope you learned something. And make sure and check us out on our YouTube page. Check out our website. Tell your friends. Tell everyone. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.